Welcome back to Success on Your Terms, and today I'm joined by the amazing Jake Talbot, who is the founder of the Giver Method. This is a transformational framework designed to help entrepreneurs, leaders, and mission-driven professionals discover their unique gifts and superpowers. Something that Jake has worked with me on, and you're going to find more about. It's an incredible episode. Enjoy.
Well, my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder author of the Giver Method, um, and which the whole concept of the Giver Method is grounded in the idea that every person has gifts and superpowers that are innate to them, and that when we discover and develop them and find ways to deliver value to the right people in our own sphere of influence, that we can create better engagement and interactions, deeper connections, have more impact, live a more fulfilled life. And I think a really big one is just living authentically, being authentically you, not trying to be a false person to who you think you should be, or, I want to achieve, attain to be this. It's like, no, this is just who you are.
Mm,
Um, and that's born out of this world of like, I actually run a separate company, a seven-figure agency that does tech and system and softwares for small businesses and entrepreneurs, using, for the people who use Keep or High Level or Active Campaign, things like that, helping them to make sense of it and make it run properly. So, years and years of working with small businesses and influencers and coaches, and uh, seeing that there was this constant theme of when you develop what you're really good at and you give it generously, the universe pays you back. It pays you back personally. It pays you back in your business. It pays you back in all the different ways. And so, uh, when I had the idea to write the book, it although goes more personal world with like professional as a part of it,
mm.
um, definitely a bit of a change because I'm used to like the professional side with a bit of personal, and so it's been a fun road to be on since we've launched this world. So, yep. So the Giver Method is the company and the book, and then Sixth Division is the agency where we do all the tech systems and software.
Amazing. I think we were connected when we're in the same community out in Canada. But then I think there was something that you shared around, I think it was linked more with where I'd done some grief recovery work as well. And that was where, again, where I'm always saying to clients as well, like especially with messaging and things, like share things that people you care about, share things that other people care about. And that again, that commonality coming is so important. And I think that was definitely the seeds of how we have grown our relationship in just being like, oh, like that catches my attention. That's something that I've been working through,
Yep.
and we
Yep.
just kind of built
And
from.
that's part of sharing. It's like I feel like when you discover deeply who you are and the passion, the whys behind, like it's so much easier and more comfortable to just talk about who you are and what you care about.
Yeah.
That connects with people better. I worked with a company that does grief recovery. I think that they actually certified the person that you had worked with, and so like there was that connection there. But when I talk about I'm certified in grief recovery, I'm doing like I don't do it in a way that ever feels forced. I always want it to feel authentic. I was at an event in Miami last week for that same community group that we met through. And one of the things we were doing, we were out on a boat. We had gone to lunch with the small group, and we were out on this yacht with probably eight other people. And we were going around identifying how we could introduce each other, how we could do like a what's their impact statement or their, hey, this is Jake and he does blank. And if you ever need to, because you're this type of person, he'd be great for that. Um, and so we had to go around and figure out like what's the best way for us to come up with how we would introduce each other. And so we started by just saying, what are the things we know about each other? And each person kind of started to introduce themselves. We kept saying, well, I know that Dave is this. I know that Danny is that. I know that. When it got to me, it was like the longest possible. Every person had things to say, like, well, I know Jake is this, and I know Jake is that, and Jake, has three boys, and he does stuff through his church, and that he has done this grief work, and then he's got his book, and it mine went on longer than anyone's, and I messaged my one of our business partners and said, did you notice that how everyone knew way more about me, but it was never forced. It never felt like I was being like, let me tell you my life story. Let me tell you about my kids. Let me tell you about, and like, it was just, it's natural when you then discover and you develop who you are, how you can just be so much more authentic and people just gravitate and it locks in their brain who you are.
Yeah. I think you also have a great ability to do that through storytelling as well. And when you share examples, and I can remember the things you shared when we've had conversations, and we met in person last September.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a particular moment around like kind of I guess at first quizzing, but then wanting to find out more about it when you're talking about the like your superpowers and things like that. And leaning into you sharing examples. And I think that's also where we had commonalities in terms of like, well, we've been through similar with corporate, the way it made us feel, and like where we are at now. And I think really driving us home to why we do what we do and our real purpose. And I was sharing with someone earlier because I think lots of people they overcomplicate everything as well. And if we just strip it all back, and just focus on, again, like you just said there, like an impact statement is what's the impact we want to make? How do we really want to bring change? Why do we do what we do? And I always think I say to people, like sometimes it sounds a bit out there, but just like when you really love what you do and you have really strong purpose, like things don't get in the way of it. And I think loads of people put so many blockers in their way in business and in life, and themselves being the main bottleneck often. But actually, and it can sound a bit hard to hear at times when someone's just saying, well, it's simple. It is just that your real purpose when it's there. But I think it is that. And actually, when you strip
Mhm.
everything back and do the work, like you said, on looking at your superpowers, and it's really helped me to get. I think there's always a bit where sometimes we can feel it's bragging or something like that, or people are very modest. And actually, no, it's about saying, no, this is what I'm great at. And I am very naturally confident. And I say to a lot of people since that conversation with you that my superpower, one of my gifts in life is just I'm really confident. I don't overthink it now. It's just something I've got in abundance and I run with it because it brings me X, Y, Z, and that can help you.
Mhm. Yep. And how much more powerful it is. Like, so someone just simply saying, like, well, I'm a really confident person, or I'm a great listener. There's something to when it's said that way versus like when someone actually says, one of my superpowers is my ability to listen, is my confidence, and how that shows up is like when you say it in that sort of a way, like it changes how they interpret what you're saying. It's not just a throwaway statement of I you know I've got lots of confidence. Well, sure you do. Okay. Like no, one of my superpowers, it's confidence, and I use it or it shows up in this sort of a way, personally or professionally or whatever, and it has that thing. One of the things you said that I wanted to at least hit on was that oftentimes, not oftentimes, most of the time it is ourselves that is getting it's we are creating our own roadblocks, we are creating our own stopgaps. I love a good friend, Jim Quick, who I know you got to meet at the event. One of my favorite things he does whenever he speaks on stage is he always says, he tells a story about how when he was kind of learning to work through some of his struggles and challenges, and that someone told him, was like, well, Jim, the problem is, like, you're that close to achieving everything you want. You're
Mm,
that close. And he then said, well, how am I that close? And the guy then held his fingers up to Jim's head and said, you're this close. Everything preventing you from being what you want to be is 100% in your head.
yeah.
Any of the roadblocks, any of the things, like it comes down to your head and how you work through that, how you start to, pivot any sort of those challenges, roadblocks to be opportunities for growth, opportunities to learn, opportunities to challenge yourself to do something more,
Mm,
versus something that can hold you back.
mm. And I think that starts like one of the values I would often talk about for myself is around giving more than you take. And then again, we're thinking, how do I really embrace that? But I'll often start with people and say that that starts with the fact you have to give to yourself. Like, in order, it's the whole oxygen mask analogy that to be the best for others. And that's why, again, health sits as a very strong value. And people often see me in the gym quite a lot or doing what I need to do to get my health in place because
Mhm.
I can't be the best I can be, um, if I don't prioritize that, and I can't show up in a way for others if I don't. So I think when it comes to, like breaking this word down around giving, and I want to come on to how you came about the giver method, but it starts by us, like everything does, right? Change does, and all
Yep,
these
yep.
things. How that's, I guess, how, giving and that focus is big for me. How has giving and the giver method come about for you in life?
So the what's crazy is I got the download to actually create the Giver Method and write the book. Like literally, just woke up in the middle of the night. You're going to write a book called The Giver Method. Giver is an acronym. Here's what the letters stand. And I just pulled up my phone and started typing it. But it's in this more of a personal, like there's personal work, there's personal development that then you use externally to create impact and do more. And that's not my world. And so I was like, well, that's interesting. And I went back to sleep and I thought nothing of it. And over the next few days, in separate conversations with my wife, with my sister and my mom, where we'd be talking, I would say something to them, and their response back to me was, "Well, that's because you're a giver." And I
Okay.
hadn't told anyone about this idea that I had this idea to write this book. And when they said it, it was kind of a like, holy crap, I probably should go and look at writing this book more. But it also made me start to play back in my head all the times when I've been a giver versus a taker, and not necessarily always a taker, but just kind of uh, not focused on how it contributes in gift giving to others, like how generosity isn't showing up. And it's not that I'm being selfish in those points of life, but it helped me play back that game film and say, okay, hold on, actually, some of the times where I've been the most happy and the most engaged and had the best growth or the most profitability, like in that moment, like I was able to just play back all these instances and be like, oh my gosh, it was when I was intentional about the impact I was making, when I was intentional about sharing what I had, um, that giving that did that, how it's played out in business when I do marketing and such. It's like, I'm one of the first people to be like, I will tell anybody anything about how to do what we do. I don't care. I'll record videos. I will like, to me, there's nothing sacred that we do. I'm like, no, I'll give and give and give ideas, strategies, tactics. Um, because when I do that, our marketing explodes and goes crazy, and people come out of the woodworks to want to work with us. Where for a long time, we were trying to be protective of the way we did it. We had our strategy. There's the six division methodology to do certain things, and we were protective. We didn't want to share it with other agencies and such, and it hurt our reputation in many of the communities we were in. People thought we were too good. We felt we were too good for them, or that we were bigger and better than them.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the mentality we had, but at the same time, it's just us being protected of our process. And when we were like, no, it works. Our thing works no matter what tools you're using. And not only that, like, I don't care. You're an agency. I will teach you how to do this. Heck, hire us and we'll build the things for you. And you can go sell exactly what we would sell to somebody else. We'll build it for you to sell to somebody else. We don't care. And once we just checked past that and looked at it from the no, we're here to create value and change in everybody's lives. How do we get more time in what we want to do, less time in what we don't? How do we put more energy where we want and decrease the energy where we don't want to be? How do we increase the money that we want coming in and decrease money where we don't want to? Like those three currencies of life, if I can give any individual or business details that helps with adjusting those to fit what they want,
Mm.
then we share, we give. And in many places, especially like the community that you and I are a part of, um, I've made that kind of the sole focus of just like share and give and share and give. And I never ask people to come work with us when we're on those group calls or when we're at those events.
Sure.
But it is those types of communities are our best performing lead sources.
Mm.
And I'm never once pitching to be like, here's why you should come work with us. It is just the value we're delivering that people go, yeah, no, I need to work with you guys. Or they tell someone else that someone else they know is in need. And they're like, hey, you need to go talk to these guys. They know what they're talking about. And
Yeah.
so for me, giving that idea of becoming a giver, like it was born out of like the concept of just waking up being like, oh, I was going to write this book. But when I realized it had such an impact, I was able to change it to where as I then worked on the detail around the book, I could be way more intentional and way more impactful with how I was doing that.
Yeah.
Um, and it has once again transformed our business and how we've been able to cut ad spend because we'd rather be in people's communities than pay money on ads, and communities are performing better for us than ads are. We it's changed things at personal life at home through the church leadership stuff I do, things like that. Like it has changed how I'm able to show up and impact people and have it never feel like I'm forcefully doing this or awkwardly doing it. It's no, it's just become a part of me at this point.
Yeah. And what's useful about it is that it's very practical, isn't it? And I think like you've got to almost be open to this work a bit before in terms of allowing it to have a significant impact as well. Because I think like what I realized going through it is that you're not going to have all the answers straight away, and it takes the time. And that part of again the whole purpose of it being that kind of coming back to it. Um, that's where the growth happens. That's where the reflections happen, the power happens. Um,
Hmm.
and I think it's one of those processes and transformations that anything that is us anyway is going to be the most challenging thing. I always say like fitness, that you doing a
Hmm.
transformation yourself is one of the hardest things you can do because it's change, right? Um, but it's very practical in the sense of not necessarily having the answer straight away, but taking you on that journey of
Yep.
just understanding more about yourself, who you want to become as well. Um, and I think sometimes breaking a lot of things down and a bit like taking them back to the basics and like unpacking things and then rebuilding. I
Hmm.
think that process is really powerful for people. And there's definitely then helped me with the work I'm doing on myself, the work I'm doing on my business, knowing different people, to really start to think around more like I just said to you, like one of my now values in business is around like giving more than you take. But then taking that the step on, and you have to live and breathe that in your actions all the time.
Hmm.
It's so important.
And it's so it's actually one of the big reasons why it's called the giver method and not like something else. It is a method that you will continuously work on throughout your life because by the time you get to a place where you understand who you are, where you are, what you're doing, within a whatever period of time, you're going to be a new person and your values could change, your purpose of what you're doing could change, your you become different over time. And so it's something that you're going to come back and work on, you're going to come back and do. It's always interesting when I have people start going through the book. There's a person that's like, I'm gonna read through your book this weekend. I'm like, I would not recommend you try to do that. um, this is not a over the weekend book. This is a read chapter 1 and 2, and then you're gonna like give yourself a little bit of time, and
Yeah.
then come back and do chapter 3. And you've seen a lot of that. It is not a. I mean, yeah, you could. I at the event I was at in Miami, I gave a copy to a guy, and the next morning he's like, oh, I'm gonna go read on the beach for a little bit, and I was like, great. And then he came back in 30 minutes later, and I was like, I thought you were gonna read the book. He's like, hold on, I got to go get my computer now because I got to jot down some thoughts, and I was like, yeah, see, that's it forces you to do that work on yourself that, you know, the when I tell people about the concept, people are like, "Oh yeah, that sounds real simple." It's like, "Yep," but when you actually get down into doing it and reflecting and trying to find these other things, I mean, honestly, it's why on the YouTube channel I record like 20-minute videos every single day on different principles of it because it's like, no, you're gonna get stuck at some point or you're gonna get caught up on a point that you're like, I gotta really work on this, but how could I do it this way or that way? And I'm like, just putting out every angle of looking at this process that I can for people to just go be able to consume. But yeah, it's a method, is a process that yeah, the stage after that I always call you like you become a giver, and then the next step is how do I really become an impact maker,
Yeah.
which is going beyond my sphere of influence. Um, and but even then, as you're on the path towards becoming an impact maker, there's a chance you're going to go back through and revisit parts of the giver method,
Mm.
um, or where you identify a relationship you wanted to work on or enhance, or you start to discover that you've got this new passion, this new strength, this new thing. Like, then great, let's develop that and figure out then once again how it becomes valuable to those in your sphere of influence.
What's been the most challenging part for you to work through with writing a book and or like beyond the book, the method as well? Um, from that initial idea of, like waking up, great ideas, things coming at you, what's then been the challenges?
So, once again, it is grounded in the space of there's a lot of personal development and personal work that you do. And I'm known as the tech system software guy,
Yeah.
systems process. Like, yeah, I'm not known in that space. And so before I could even consider writing the book, it was, well, I need to at least understand it myself, understand these things more. And that's when I went on my journey of, I cannot tell you how many thousands of pages of notes I have, how many hours and hours of videos I've watched, how many different books I read, and continue to
Yeah.
uh, to put myself in a place of, hey, I can tell you, there are probably people that can tell you how to develop gifts and superpowers better than me, because that's their whole world and has been their world for 20 years. Um, how that then plays into all the other aspects of this, like, yeah, they probably don't have it tied as well into the other aspects of becoming a giver. Um, so many people, when they write a book, it's like the culmination of this work they've been doing for years. And for me, it's who I've been for years, but it's not necessarily that I've had the methodology, the ways of doing it. It was just that's who I was in the times where I was doing well. And so it was really refining it to be like, well, if that's what it is, how is that applicable to anybody, no matter if they are, you know, uh, uh, they're just doing it to build themselves up personally for deeper relationships, whether it's the business person, entrepreneur, whether it's the stay-at-home mom or dad, or the, college person who's trying to find their way in the world. Like, how do I write this and do this in a way that it can impact, millions, not just 40-year-old dudes with beards who live in the United States. Like, I know how to talk to those guys. Um, how do I do this in a way that it's impactful for so many other people?
Yeah.
Um, and that was the challenge, is how do we adapt it? And even since writing the book, I feel like, once again, I've been able to put it in more into practice with people one on one while I wrote it and since writing it. And so there's that as well. It's like, once again, a lot of people write a book and they've done 5, 10, 20 years of, not only that's been their world, but they've been coaching people one on one or in groups or speaking on stage on that topic for that many years. And so for me, it's like, we're 18 months into this journey.
Mm.
And so the people who join our impact makers community that we have, the people who do dive into the book and do more, the people who have hired me to help them, like, it the YouTube content, like, it's only getting every day better and better and better and more impactful. It will already change most people's lives, but it will get even more impactful and change over time, because it just, again, it's a method that can continue to grow and refine over time.
Yeah.
um, and occasionally I come across the person that I'm like, I have never considered this challenge before. Sitting down talking with someone, trying to get initial things started, and I just ask them the question, like, well, what's good in your world? Just trying to get like a sense of what they appreciate. And they're like, my job's going well. I'm like, cool. What else? Nothing. I'm like, whoa. And like, I probed and I tried every which angle. You and I both have that experience of the coming from corporate world, that wake up moment. It's actually, that is the grounding story for the book, is me waking up in the sea of cubicles and being like, whoa, I don't belong here.
Yeah.
This is not where I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
Um, and I encountered someone just about a week and a half ago where I was working with them, and every angle I could think of, I'm like, you have not, like, there is no spark of anything in there yet,
Yeah.
and we got to find it and dive deeper. And but the work we did to find it, like, cool. Well, next time someone comes, like, it's going to get better and easier. And so the challenges for me have just been, how do I make it work for every person?
Yeah.
I mean, you saw as we were at that event, we were sitting at a table one morning,
Hmm.
and we had, where there was a father daughter that run a business together, and she was asking, and it was easy because it was, well, there's this, there's this, there's this, and she was like, well, I don't really know. Her dad's sitting right there, so the next step is always, well, go to the people you know and ask them these questions. So I literally turned to him and said, hey, and asked the first question, and he gave us like the answer that opened the whole thing for us.
Oh,
And so sometimes it's easy. It's like, oh, yeah, just go. Like, it's pretty simple. Go ask these 5 questions of the people you know. It's pretty clear what that will be. And then I have another guy that I'm close to that, he was going through it, and he's like, well, I'm stuck and my family's not getting back to me, and no one I know is really, and I'm not really getting it. It's like, okay, yeah, now we have to figure out some slightly different variants to make
mm,
it work for you. So yeah, that's I think the biggest challenge is that I don't think it will ever. I could probably write version 2, 3, 4, 5, and however many versions of the book over time, because the more it gets out there, the more unique scenarios there are. It's the how can we adapt it to fit every person. I
mm,
think it did a great job already covering as many as possible, but it's that continuing to make it be applicable to other people.
sure. I think there's also a bit though that coming to something towards something like this, especially if it's not something you're used to. You've got to adapt to this as well and be open-minded on all these things. Like we'll always like we're very passionate about our personal growth and
Hmm.
like you've just shared earlier around giving to communities, building those real genuine relationships and seeing where it goes, post being that person that just goes in and just goes for the hard sell and everything, thinks that's going to work.
Yep. Yep.
You've got to be adaptable to things, to taking time. And I think in a world where it's constantly want the magic bullet, get the result right now, that's quite scary. It's quite daunting. It's people don't like not having the answer straight away, but this is always it's
Hmm.
those processes where it can be uncomfortable, but that's always, I always say that uncomfortable is your path to growth. And
Yep.
that's stuff you really need to lean in on. And I think there's, again, if anybody wants to, we'll share the details at the end about how they can reach out and get a copy. But going on this process, you've almost got to let everything go a bit, almost sometimes about what you know as well. And also
Yep.
position yourself where you're comfortable to put yourself on that pedestal a bit in some ways and not put yourself down. I think it's definitely a Brit thing, but we're rubbish at saying our strengths. We're not very good at celebrating our successes and what we do.
I've
Or
seen that. I've seen that.
it's like the next thing, the next thing. And that's why, again, part of the reason going out to Canada in a different community was because the mindset's very different out there. And let's not lie, like this community has been curated with that focus. So
Hmm.
I have to be careful that sometimes I go over there and I'm like, oh my God, all Canadians are like this. It's like, no, this community is as well. So it's the rooms you put yourself in. But you do have to be open-minded to that and just seeing where that takes you. And I think that level of curiosity, that open-mindedness just leads to so many different opportunities in life that can just be absolutely incredible.
Yep. And I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's the old T.S. Eliot quote where it talks about um, uh, essentially going on, we're going to go down the path only to find ourselves back at where we began, only to rediscover ourselves anew or whatever that may be. Like, it's a terrible quote of what how I said it, but the real quote is amazing. It's you know, oftentimes when I'm speaking from stage or anything, it'll be like, hey, now you may be tempted to be like, yeah, I've heard this before. Or yeah, I know I got that. I get it. You may feel that way when you're reading the book or whatever. It's like, and
Mm,
the challenge is, no, hold on, just suspend yourself and say, because oftentimes we then start to not listen or not read as in depth or not be as present. And there is a nugget in there that's meant for you and you
yeah,
miss it because you've said in that mental, like, nah, I got this. It's I no, I've already I'm covered. And it's like, no, no, listen with new ears. Like, look at it with new eyes and say, cool, well, how is this different? How can I implement that differently? I always use, from religious standpoint, like as I read any sort of scripture-based thing, I can read them and then come back and read the same thing again a year later. And I feel like there's different things that stand out to me because I'm a different person. And it's the same is true there. And then also understand, I think you hit on a great principle, which is there isn't a there isn't a magic pill. There isn't a what's that shot that everyone's doing to lose weight.
yeah,
That thing. There is nothing for that for personal development. You can't just go to sleep. We're not the Matrix where we can download you all the data you need of here's who you're meant to be and here's a new gift that you can go do and go make that impact in the world. It takes work and it takes stretching you out of your comfort zone. It takes being, vulnerable and trying the new things and such. And, at the same time realizing that any progress, which I think as you said it, Brits are not great at like at those celebrations of acknowledgement. Like, um, and I would agree with you because the big thing is like you have to celebrate any progress, any win forward,
yeah,
no matter how small it is, because that builds the resilience and the confidence to keep pressing forward to the next thing. So oftentimes it is that, okay, I did that, what's next? I did that, what's next? It's like, okay, hold on, just take that small second to be like, holy crap, I did this thing.
yeah.
Um, if you told me uh 24 months ago you're going to write a book and it's going to be on this sort of a topic, and I'd be like, you are crazy. Um, like there's no way that's possible. But every little bit progress forward, like you become a new person, new things are possible and true about yourself. And so yeah, I think it's that constant celebrate the win, celebrate where you've come from. I also think that you can't look at your past failures as my setbacks. They are your, they were actually the springboards to make you who you are today. They are the things, the catalyst, the whatever that pushes you to that point. And I can now more openly talk about the things I've done that were absolutely stupid in my life, the poor business decisions, finance decisions, relationship decisions I've made. I can talk about them more now because I can own them as like, yeah, but who Jake is right this moment is because of all of those.
Sure.
And there's wins and positivity to take from the lessons that I've learned there that make me a better father, a better, church leader, a better business leader, whatever that may be.
How's it impacted? I know you're very much a family man and you've shared that part and husbands and everything. How's that changed, or not necessarily, well, it may have changed, but how's that impacted, is probably the better word, the that that Jake in terms of being that hat?
It so it I've always wanted to be, how do I leave my boys where they're in a better place than where I am, than where I was? How do I, which every parent, is true. Like I want my child to have better than what I had. I want their life to be better. I want them to be better set up for whatever. And it has actually changed for me where I look at the impact I'm able to make in this life.
Mm,
And I know that I will be able to, like, they will be able to make triple the impact because there are three of them that will all have unique personalities and will have unique friends and unique experiences. They will have triple the amount of impact I will ever make in life.
mm,
And so, how do I get them not only set up mentally, financially, physically, emotionally to be better than I was at whatever age they get to, and when they become their own adult humans in life? But it's that they view it from that same mentality of I have the ability to create the world I want to live in. I have the ability to make the impact that I choose to make, and that every decision, everything I make, I'm going to do intentionally because of the impact, the influence, the change that it makes, the ripple, the legacy effect that has over time is insane. And so getting them to start to see that, my oldest is 14, my youngest is 3. And like 14-year-old, there are things about like, yeah, he changed. We have him do things with his finances different than we ever did. We have him do certain things that way. But he has, since I've made it a point to be like, no, I'm going to instill in them this idea of you make impact and change. And he started waking up 45 minutes before he usually wakes up so that he wants to get out and do a bike ride in the morning for health. He makes his bed. He preps certain things for school. He then rides to school. And, when he comes home, he talks about like, without me prompting anything, talks about uh, uh, very specific and unique interactions he's had with people where
yeah,
he felt he was able to plant a seed of something for the future.
I love that.
I'm like, at 14, he's thinking this way. I'm like,
Yeah,
I I'm 40 and I wish like I turned 40 in a week and a half and I wish I thought that way that often. Like, how am I coming home every day and be like, how did I plant seeds to make impact in other people's lives today? Um, my 10-year-old, same idea. He has begun, we'll do every Friday night we do date night. And so oftentimes we just leave the boys at home, with the oldest watching the two younger. Well, the 10-year-old has started on those nights. He takes the 3-year-old and gets him ready for bed and puts him down for bed and tells him a story and does all that. And then comes and reports when we get home, like, so I put Sam to bed and here's what happened and here's how, and he doesn't have as big of a sphere of influence right now at 10.
yeah,
Um, but he's thinking about who is in that sphere and who he can impact in it.
yeah,
And his little brother is one of those people. And then, as they get older, like the 14-year-old has a much bigger sphere of influence than him. He's thinking of those impacts, because he has multiple classes throughout the day, his clubs he's a part of. That I'm like, gosh, when you get to be in college and your sphere gets that much bigger, or when you get to where you can be working, running a business, doing whatever, your sphere is going to grow and be bigger than mine ever could be
yeah.
because I didn't think about it or start learning about it or be intentional about it until a certain point in life, and you're doing it at 10 and 14.
Mm.
And so that's probably the biggest thing that it's done is I I envision the fact that, you know, they have that just massive ability to expand whatever I'm able to do well beyond what I'm able to do in their own unique way. I'm not trying to put my way of doing it in any way to them in their unique way, and that they are starting to see it and just adapt it as a part of their daily life.
Do you think it has the ability to make people happier?
100%. There is a direct science. I did a video on this oh gosh, probably 2 3 weeks ago, where it was all the actual neuroscience behind generosity. It was all the nerdy stuff that I read and listened to and watched while I was getting ready to write the book, and I was like, it's such cool data, but you have to be the nerdy person that wants to hear about the neural pathways that are created when you do these things. But like, it is
Yeah,
scientifically proven that when you are generous, when you give of your unique time, your gifts, your superpower, when you serve, that your brain begins to create those pathways for more joy. And
yeah,
so when I, you know, the book subtitle is like Transform Lives Through Generosity, but it's like it is the how you take your superpowers to create more impact, deeper connections, and it says and like essentially live a more fulfilled life. And to me, joy and happiness comes as a part of living a fulfilled life. If I'm fulfilling and living a purpose and the vision and the values of who I want to be and what I want to do, like you can't help but have more joy in your life. And I find myself like I said, I'm married. I've got 3 boys. I run a 7-figure agency. I've launched this other brand of the Giver Method. At church, I'm in charge of all the men who are between the ages of 18 and 92. I like the list of the responsibilities and things I have in my life. It is busy, and I find myself more and more looking for the ways that I can engage with individuals one on one and serve them
yeah,
and help them, uh, no matter how busy I am, because that I come home and it's like there's this you just have that energy, that joy, that passion that's with you at that point. And when you've seen that change happen while you've met with that person,
mm,
or that change that happens over time, you can't help but sit back and just be like you're living that life fulfilled. You want to share that with others, and then it becomes like contagious when other people see that you're doing it and that you're experiencing that. It really does become contagious that they begin to slowly start to do the same sort of things.
yeah. And look, I said it to a client earlier this week, like you want to be around people that are like that, right? You want to be around people that are not just talking about change, but actually making the change and leading the way. And there's a correlation there between very similarly gratitude, right? And having genuine
Mhm.
gratitude for the smallest things and life. And I think I was going to ask you about how it leads into business from being again like this has helped you as a dad, as a husband, but I guess from how I see it, business is that if you focus on giving and serving people genuinely and authentically, as you said at the start, you can't replace that. It's like people just feel it. One of my favorite quotes is by Walt Disney around the fact that he talks around do what you do so well that others come back and see what you do and they bring others as well type of thing. I
Yep.
didn't put that
Yep.
quite as bad there. That was quite good. But he was, that idea that bring people back, and it's this thing that if you build genuine relationships, you give to people more, you generally help people, you make the right impact that you want to make. And if you slow down things to really think about answering those questions in life, that's the stuff that's going to bring you all the stuff that you want when you're thinking about, I want a business to make me more money. And they're thinking about, I think there's a different approach to how we can lead businesses. And that's where I feel that this method that you've created can absolutely help business owners absolutely
100%.
on their whole business and therefore their life,
100%.
right?
Like it once again, I look at it from I have a team, I have a team of 7 people, and prior to doing a lot of this, like I'm super busy throughout the day. I pop in and out of my office. Everyone's right here outside my door, so like they're all working and such. And I pop out, grab a drink or whatever, come back in, keep working. Our admin's amazing. She would call her the office glue. Uh, but she always like I noticed I after being where I start to be more of a giver and show up in that way, I noticed that she is always the person asking me like, "So how was your weekend? What did you guys do? What are you guys doing this weekend? What's?" And I'll talk, and then it's like I go in my office and I start working. And it was like in the last decade, how many times have you asked her like, "What was your weekend? How did you do?" Like it just because I'm not as a leader, I'm cool. We're here with this, great. Yeah, here's what I did. Now I got to go get on this thing. I got to do that thing, and it's like just try to be more intentional with the those simple interactions with the team that it's like, okay, hold on, like I need to pause all of the craziness in world and I've got my, command center of screens and tablets and notes and such all around me in my phone and like, okay, hold on, I need to be here and just like with you in this moment as as a leader and a person on your team. Um, but at the same time, it's that showing up and knowing that as a part of our agency when we work with small businesses, like if I can help, if our team helps you to organize what you're doing, get clear on your strategies for your leads and your prospects, your clients, we build that in. Like I said, those currencies of life, time, energy, and money. If I can get you more time where you want more energy, or decrease where you don't want to spend energy, increase ROI and such. But at the same time, like people come to us for that, they don't realize that we are actually also trying to up level them as a person and as a leader and use our giver ideas with that sort of a thing. It They don't come to us for that to be changed in how they show up to their employees, but over time you start to see that they change how they show up to calls, how they interact with it. And I'm like, if I just made an impact, I just made a ripple to this one client, and it's going to change how they show up to all of their family
Yeah,
and all of their team, which then changes how those people show up to. So, like when we talk about a legitimate ripple effect
it's
in
huge.
business, I can change your business to create more time, energy, and money. Yes. And I can change how you move throughout the world and the interactions you have with your family and your employees, which changes how they interact with the next group. Like it truly becomes that you will make the impact that you will never truly understand the uh, the depth and the width of how much of an impact you've made
Yeah.
because it's changed. Like it changes just those the bits and pieces of their life, and so um, I said there's already benefits with the giver method when it comes to like from a how we show up to events and how I show up in communities and how I show up. Like I'm just going to give, and there's that the universe pays you back through relationships and opportunities to work with people or leads and whatever. But it is more of the I want to instill other principles and how people are, once again, how you show up intentionally, impactfully, change the way those engagements, interactions work. Because if I can change it in you, it changes. You get off that call, you go to the store. It's going to change how you interact with the person at the store. It's going to change how you interact when you get home. And so for me, it's beneficial to business because yes, time, energy, and money all put to the places where we want them to be and happier employees and happier home life and happier clients. Like you just have where everything starts to up level and everyone becomes more tuned and bought into what it is that you're trying to do. It cancels out the noise that's out there. It keeps their attention at a deeper level, and keeps them engaged and becoming a happy raving fan of your world for a longer period of time.
I love it. I'm so glad you brought in the time, energy, money currencies because I was going to ask you about that because that's definitely something you gave me last year was just talking around differences that completely like hit me huge in terms
Mm-hmm.
of like time, currency, energy, currency. And not I can be a bit like, oh, it's not woo. And I worked through that with Giovanni as well in terms of he goes, but why do you even think of it as woo? And it's all of
It,
these
it,
things have just given me so
look,
much to think about.
every bit of it. I am a once again I'm a computer system process person. Like I'm a grounded in data science information person. So I am a quick to like wow, that sounds really woo. um but at the same time, the more I've then been like once again that the TS Eliot quote of like looking at a new place from a new lens and
Yeah.
how it is, it's the like, okay, now hold on a second because there's clearly something happening. Like that person makes great connections, or they've
Yeah.
got a great energy about them, or they've got a great there's there's something to the woo that's working.
Yeah.
So I need to at least know more, try to figure it out. And I always come at it like, how do I figure out the woo thing from the analytical standpoint? Because that's just me. Um, but it is sometimes you have to suspend that a little bit. And I think one of the biggest things, 'cause I know you work with pretty much business owners, entrepreneurs, things like that. Um, and it's that thing that you and I had talked about where it's the you uh, when you stop looking at your business from the perspective of my what's my monthly revenue, my annual revenue, what's my client load, total clients, yeah, that's a great number. And trust me, I'm always trying to grow to sell and make more money. More money allows me certain freedoms, but uh, when I look at the return I actually want in my from my business, when I look at returns that I want from relationships, when I look at returns I want in anything, it is those three currencies, and they are in that order. You
Yeah,
always think about the time first, the energy second, the money third,
yeah,
because there are times that I'm willing to spend money to save time or to save energy. There's times where I'm willing to spend energy and time to save money. I love doing yard work. I love mowing my own lawn. I can clearly afford to pay someone to come mow my yard.
yeah,
And I can afford to have someone clean my pool and have someone, but I love it. I enjoy
yeah,
doing it every Saturday, mowing the yard, cleaning my pool, things like that. Um, so when you think about it from as a business, where do I want to spend my time and
yeah,
where don't I want to spend my time? I'm an early riser, and I used to like wake up and be at home, and then I would come into the office, but I'd still come in early, and I'd work all day, and I'm like, well, I want to spend my time. I want as much time with my boys as humanly possible. And I have a 3-year-old that goes to bed at 7 and two boys that go to bed at 9. And if I work till 5, 6 o'clock, that means I have like an hour with the little one, and I have like 4 or 5 hours. But like, no, I want as much time as humanly possible. So I wake up early. I get to the office early. I generally leave 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, between 2 and 3. So I am walking in the door when they are walking in from school,
yeah,
and then I get to be there to help force them to do chores or their homework or whatever activity. The middle boy just got done doing football, American football. The older boy last year was doing a ton of actual football, soccer. And being able to be at every game and match and be there present. The little guy, like, he and I just hang out. And if you want to find the best stress reducers in the world and anxiety relief in the world, go hang out with a 3-year-old. You can remove all stress and anxiety hanging out with a 3-year-old because you can't help but feed off their energy. But I want my time spent here. I don't want my time spent here in the afternoons. I want to put energy into these parts of our business. I do not want to do anything with our ad spend. I don't want to worry about our bookkeeping. I don't want to worry about uh, you know, the creating the graphic for the thing. Like, I don't care. I will I don't want my energy spent there. I want my energy spent interacting and connecting with people. Like, great. Then I'm going to set up my business in a way, and yeah, that means I have people on staff that do those things that I am paying money to, which costs profits, but that's where they spend their energy. I don't have to. I live a better life because my time and energy is not spent doing those tasks. It's doing what I want to be doing. Um, and yeah, that means profits are lower because I'm paying for another human being to be here. Great. That's like, I would rather do that because I get to spend it doing what I want to do versus the things that a business owner may just have to do because it's a part of their life.
yeah,
Um, One of the biggest reasons I tell people like why they end up coming to work with us on our agency and their systems and software, I'm like, is that your best place for you to spend your time? Like, do you want your time and energy spent in your CRM and marketing automation tool?
yeah,
Like, no, that doesn't sound like it's a good use of your time. Sounds
yeah,
like it's a way better use of your time to be a visionary, a leader, someone who's trying to inspire and change people versus down in the little ticky tack thing. Why, when someone opts in off that form, isn't this email going out?
yeah. Makes sense. Absolute sense. I always ask to round it off, and it's been a great conversation. Thank you for sharing everything you have. What does success mean to you?
So success to me it starts with the impact that I'm able to make the deeper I can see each relationship that I have and helping others discover who it is they're meant to be, unlock those gifts and superpowers. It's seen individuals, people who are impact driven, entrepreneurs, leaders, whatever, step fully into this idea of who they're meant to be. Many times that's how they're making money, and they're still not fully stepped into who it is that they're meant to be and using their gifts and everything with more confidence, how they create those ripple effects. Like it's seen those changes in people and living in alignment with, for me, it's living in alignment with my values and continuing to grow and create something that will outlive me. And that's where it comes down to like success for me is those wins I see in my boys of them becoming more focused and impact driven people themselves at a young age,
Yeah.
helping them embrace their gifts, create deeper, more meaningful connections with who they're around. Because
Yeah.
once again, I can triple the impact I could ever make in them. And once again, I know that if in my, like I said, I turned 40 next week, so let's just say I've got another 40 years to live. I know that I have X number of people I will ever engage with and interact with it again in life. I know there's a certain number of times, like my parents live in a different state than I do, and they only come for Christmas. I know that based off their age, I'm probably only going to see them maybe 10, 15 more times in my life. How do I make those interactions the most impactful interactions possible?
Yeah.
Um, and then know that then when they go back home to where they're living, how is it that they're then making a better impact because of the interactions we've had? How is it that how is it that your life has changed in your relationships, in your working with clients, in your personal life? Like the more every time I see the little changes in people that start to have that, like that to me is success, seeing that true ripple effect start to take
Hmm.
impact, and like, but knowing that I've only seen like the first two or three ripples,
Sure.
that the ripples that are go beyond that I will never see, but know that they're happening and hopefully happen more and more and become bigger and deeper ripples because of the impact or the changes we're doing as a part of the Giver method.
Love it. How can people find out more about the Giver method and get a copy?
So there's thegivermethod.com is the like easy place to go. There's also if you go thegivermethodbook.com, that's like direct to details about the book, can get you access to go and buy it. I also have a really cool resource, and I knew I was going to do this, so let me pull it up because I was like, I put together this really cool, it's like a 30-page guide graphic thing that I was like, your audience is going to be the first people who hear anything about it. Um, and so they can go get access to it. It's free, and has no commitment or anything to it. Just go get access to it, and it will take them through what I'm referring to as like the Giver roadmap of like, here's the 5 things, the 5 steps that you could start doing that's going to put you on that path. And so, yeah, get the book. I'd love if everyone goes and buys the book. But if you're like, well, I want to put some more practical things into motion, then if you go to thegivermethod.com slash, it's going to be how you typically do a URL. So it's going to be the givers with an S at the end roadmap. So the hyphen givers hyphen roadmap. And I'll provide these links to you. So hopefully you can share those out, or find us on YouTube. Like I said, videos every single day, typically 15 to 25-minute videos that are principles of becoming a giver and an impact maker and how they can take and do more with that. And so they can find us there. Um, yeah, those are all the fun places to find us. If they're ever like in a, hey, business technology systems, you talked about those things, that sounds cool. It's sixthdivision.com. So think of it like the number six,
Yeah.
spelt out SAXTH, sixth division, all one word.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for listening to the episode. If it's been of value to you, please make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel so we can reach and impact more people. If you'd like to know more about how I can help you to dial in your messaging so you stand out, cut through the noise, and be known for what you do, then send me a web mastermind and we can talk through all around your sales, your marketing, the client experience, your offers, everything you've got right now so you can grow your business in 2025. I'll speak to you soon.